Mugluck here, and I don't like game reviews that take 20 minutes to give 5 minutes of information. This is Hollow Knight Silksong, a single-player, hand-drawn Metroidvania platformer. It is available on Linux, PC, Mac, PS4 and 5, Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, Xbox One, and Xbox XS. Its ESRB rating is everyone 10 and up. Now, Silksong has already taken the gaming world by storm, but the goal of this review is to determine whether or not this game is worth its price tag and time and is right for you. The game's setting, with no spoilers beyond the tutorial. You play the role of Hornet, who was a boss and sometimes ally from the first Hollow Knight game. In the opening scene, she is captured and being transported somewhere, but manages to break free. Though she has the option of leaving these lands, she chooses to stay and find out who ordered her capture and put a stop to it so that it doesn't happen again. This is her story. The general gameplay. Hornet plays a bit differently than the Little Knight of the first game. She starts out with longer reach, her downward strike is a 45-degree angle, and builds up silk in her shell as she attacks, which she can spend to heal or use special abilities once they are unlocked. Later, you'll unlock crests, which change your combat style, such as life-stealing, getting a true downward attack, or shortening your attack range in exchange for increased attack speed. The crests also affect how many equipment slots you have, determining how much gear you can have on. You will open up the map to the best of your ability and occasionally get new items or abilities that allow you to access previously inaccessible areas, encouraging you to backtrack and check those areas out that you couldn't reach before. You will gather scraps of knowledge until you find out who was behind your imprisonment and why, and put a stop to them. And possibly other endings. How much playtime do you get for your purchase? Hollow Knight Silksong took me about 44 hours of gameplay before I hit the end credits in a single playthrough. There was a lot more additional content post-credits, but that was when I put down the game to make this review. Comparisons to other games. Silksong is a Metroidvania, so it bears similarities to other games of that genre, such as Hollow Knight 1, Metroid, or Ori and the Blind Forest. The most glaring difference between this game and those is the difficulty is far higher. I will touch more on this in a moment. The details. Graphics. The graphics for the game are hand-drawn and charming, and I think one of the largest hooks for the game itself, drawing in its new audience. Sound and music. Attacks and abilities of both yourself and enemies have audio cues that can be relied upon. The game's music also helps set the mood in the background with different audio tracks for each area. Controls. Hollow Knight Silksong can be played with a controller or with mouse and keyboard. I played the game on mouse and keyboard, but in full disclosure, it does recommend playing it on controller. The PC controls were fine, and they did allow rebinding, but they did not allow you to separate keys that were used for multiple inputs. As an example, for me, using my 3 tools was F key while holding up and F key while holding down. I could rebind the F key to something else, but it was always up F, F, and down F. I could not rebind those to just 1, 2, and 3 on the keyboard. Additionally, things like dodge and sprint were the same button. Tap to dodge and hold to sprint. So often you might be trying to do one of these and accidentally do the other, and you could not separate these inputs onto 2 separate keys. This is true for KBM and controller both. Saving system. Similar to Souls-like games, Silksong saves whenever you sit at a bench, this game's version of a bonfire. When you rest at a bench, Hornet will draw in new areas on the map where she has been, after you have acquired the tools to do so, and most non-boss enemies will respawn. If you exit the game at a random time, you will load back into the game sitting at the last bench you visited. You will still have everything you picked up, so you can use this as a form of travel to warp back to the most recent bench if needed. Do you have to play Hollow Knight 1 before you play Silksong? The story of Silksong and Hollow Knight is one of piecing together lots of fragments of information. Many people finish the game without a clear understanding of what happened and turn to a write-up or YouTube video to put everything together. Again, like many Souls-like games. So in terms of the story, I don't believe playing Silksong before Hollow Knight 1 would hurt your experience. But due to the sheer difficulty, I'd recommend playing Hollow Knight 1 first. Silksong was made knowing that many people in the fanbase had been mastering Hollow Knight 1 for years, and so they made it many times more difficult to give them a challenge. Because of this, I believe that if you tried Silksong before HK1 or as your first Metroidvania, it would be easy to end up highly frustrated. Content creator concerns. None. I streamed my entire playthrough on Twitch and YouTube and uploaded the entire thing to our Mugluck Plays YouTube channel and did not experience any muted deleted VODs or have any issues with copyright claims. Do I have anything negative to say about this game? This section covers things I felt could have been better about the gameplay experience. Note that some of these are facts and some are simply my opinion. If you don't agree with all these, that is 100% okay. Damage. In Hollow Knight 1, most enemies hit you for 1 point of damage. Enemies that hit you for 2 were quite rare. In Silksong, you start with 5 hit points and many enemies, as well as environmental effects, hit you for 2 damage. This is incredibly punishing, especially in conjunction with the next point, runbacks. Boss rooms do not have save points outside of them. Some bosses take minutes to reach from the nearest bench. This means that anytime you die on a boss and want to try again, you may have to parkour over spikes, cliffs, and get past multiple foes for a few minutes to reach the boss again, possibly starting your next attempt at low health. I personally don't mind slamming my face into repeated boss attempts for hours on end. It took me over 7 hours to beat Brutal V Rising's final boss, but the runbacks being longer than the boss fights were a constant frustration. Shards. Whenever you use tools in the game, like throwing knives, you have a set amount that you can carry. When you next visit a bench, you spend shards to restock your tools, so if you are attempting boss fights and dying, you are spending money each attempt you use tools. And if you run out, you have to go farm either shards or rosaries and spend them at merchants to buy more shards to stock up again. I honestly just found this to be frustrating and wish shards were refunded on failed boss attempts to eliminate the need for ceasing working on progression to go farm ammunition. Contact damage. Most Metroidvanias have this, but it is worth mentioning. This is not a game where the enemy's sword touching you does damage. This is a game where the enemy's entire body does. If you're jumping over them and your foot brushes their hat, you will take full damage every time. Customization. There's a small amount of customization in the game for a very long time. In my 44 hours of gameplay before reaching the credits, I found 1 power. I know there are some others from seeing clips of the game, but I didn't come across them on my blind playthrough. I found 4 crests that change how you use your weapon, but did not come across enough memory lockets to unlock and actually use them, and a handful of tools. I was reminded of the customization in Sekiro, where no matter how you design your character, you are essentially guy with sword, or in this case, bug with needle. Now there's nothing wrong with this, but I believe it is worth mentioning. Controls. The earlier mentioned control issues. Writing. The writing in this game is like the writing in Dark Souls, where you find a scrap of a sentence here and there and have to piece together the story. Again, not a bad thing, but worth mentioning depending on the experience you want. Final thoughts. While the game had many things that were difficult or frustrating, it feels that this is exactly what the developers intended. It feels like a very challenging addition to the Metroidvania genre, designed for people who already were passionate about it. The game world is absolutely massive and provides lots of gameplay for its mere $20 price tag. If you have never played a game like this before, I'd recommend starting out with Hollow Knight 1 or Ori in the Blind Forest. Both are also fantastic Metroidvanias, and in Ori's case has a very clear story to boot on what is happening. But if you are already a Metroidvania veteran or are a patient gamer who welcomes a challenge, I believe that Hollow Knight Silksong is absolutely worth its time and price tag. Also, at the time of recording this, the game is free on Game Pass. This video was not sponsored, so if you enjoyed it, please consider hitting that like button to help us out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe for more content. If you'd like to see more of my own playthrough of Hollow Knight Silksong, I'll include a link to that playlist from our other channel down below. Subscribe there too. As always, a massive thank you to our dear patrons who make content like this possible. If you'd like to become a supporter and earn early access, there's a link to that in the description. Enjoy Bilewater.
Faridula si manette, doni poina volinette, pina sans mi manicette, d'un enfant sur le banc. Faridula si manette, doni poina volinette, pina sans mi manicette, d'un enfant sur le